Hey there, thank you for clicking on this video. You're probably here because you're starting a new project and you're debating on what type of silicone rubber or casting agent you're looking to use and what's going to be the perfect fit. To be honest, I have this issue every time I start a new project, but I've been dabbling with the smooth on line for the past year and a half, maybe 2 years, and I definitely found myself to really love a lot of silicones. So if you're new, a little bit about me. I've been 3D printing for the last 4 years. I started around COVID time and I've been slowly making my way through the smooth on line, and I definitely have my top favorites, but it always differentiates depending on what my project is. If I'm doing something that requires food safety, I'll go into the Smooth Sil line. If I'm looking for my day-to-day silicone platinum rubbers, I'll do the Mold Star. Lately, I've been dabbling with more flexible silicones. So I can definitely talk to you about my experience with all of the ones that I've tried, and maybe it will help you make your decision. There's no doubt that silicone is super expensive, so it's definitely worth researching prior to making the investment so you make the right choice and it is the right fit for you. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the one that I've purchased the most, and it is the Mold Star 15 Slow. There is a part A and a part B to most of these silicones. They do retail for about 250 to 280 Canadian dollars. I don't remember off the top of my head. I always want them at the cash. It's a very painful process, so I don't even pay attention. I just tap my card and run. This one has to be my absolute favorite. I use these for candle molds. It's amazing. It's wonderful. I use that for my candle molds that I sell. And it's been quite reliable and quite durable. And in terms of viscosity, it's not too thick. There are some other silicones, especially the food safe ones, that are so viscous that it's almost comparable to melting marshmallows and then trying to stir it. It's a mess. This one has been my go-to. Probably seen it. It's that mint green color, and I can show you an example. This is actually a popsicle mold that I made not too long ago. This silicone is not food safe, but I wanted to do a prototype and I thought this is a good silicone to practice on. Food safe silicone is very expensive. It's about double the price of this. So I thought I would give it a shot before I actually used the food safe, and it worked out quite well. This is one of the candle molds that I have. They are quite chunky. I made this in CAD, printed a 3D master mold, and then poured the silicone within the master mold. So it's just in 2 pieces here, and then the registration points click, and then you just pour your wax in here. You're good to go. It's super durable, it's super strong. I have had no issues in terms of tearing with this silicone. If you're looking to use this for 3D printing material, I definitely recommend it. It works like a charm. You're able to dabble with it for about 50 minutes before it starts to cure, and the full curing time is about 4 hours, so it's not too long. I usually set it aside and then do something else on the computer, and then before you know it, it's ready to demold. So it's really easy, and it's great if you're selling molds because the turnover is quite quick. Another thing that I like about the silicone is that it has a heat resistance of 450 degrees, which is quite high. So if you plan on maybe doing some casting with some very low temp melting metal, I haven't tried it, but I really want to try it with tin. I think tin's melting point is somewhere in the 200s, so it's definitely below the threshold, and I think it would be really cool to make a casting with that and polish it up and see how it looks. So before I go any further, there are 2 different types of silicones. You have your tin cured silicones and you have your platinum silicones. There is a bit of a difference. Platinum does not really work well with sulfur-based materials, so if you're working with a clay that has sulfur, the silicone will actually not cure, and this is called cure inhibition. You can bypass that by using a tin-based silicone. So they use a tin catalyst. I'm not quite sure what that means in scientific form, but it is a different chemical makeup, so it is able to cure in an environment where there is sulfur located. Additionally to sulfur, tin-based silicones are also great when you're using 3D printed materials that are resin-based. There has been a lot of trial and error for me trying to use platinum rubbers with resin-based materials, and it has been a nightmare. There are ways around it. Smooth On does suggest to put your 3D printed item in the cure box for like 8 hours and make sure it's fully cured, and then use like a spray paint to cover the top coat. But for me, I thought that was just too much work, way too extensive. So I just bypass all of that and use a tin-based silicone. Supposedly the lifespan is not as long with these silicone rubbers, but I found it to be quite sturdy and quite high in quality despite this fact. And I've been using them for soaps and candles, and I have had no issues with them. They've been very strong, they've been super durable, and I've had no problems whatsoever. I'm sure it is dependent on the curing agent that you're using and how abrasive it is, but I'm quite happy with it, especially with my resin printed materials. Using silicone rubbers, it is kind of important to take into consideration mold release, especially when you have a figure that has a complex geometry and you have your mold housing surrounding it. It might be difficult to demold. There has been a few times where I've printed a 3D printed master mold and I had my walls too high and I had to break it open to actually get the mold because I didn't allow any space for myself to like take it out, and I didn't add mold release, so the process was like 10 times harder. I don't use it all the time, but I do use it sometimes to avoid any breakage or anything like that. It's a really quick process and you only need like one bottle. It's lasted me maybe like a year and a half. You just spray it lightly on the surface of your mold, wait about 5 minutes, and then you can pour your silicone rubber. And I'll show you the one that I use. So it's this one. It's the Man Release Technologies Ease Release 200. And I'll link that in my Amazon, which will be in the description, all the products that I use, and you can take a look at that. So it says here, mold release agent for use with silicones, urethanes, and resins. I mainly just use this for silicones and it's worked perfectly fine. I can't vouch for urethanes or resins though, because it's something that I haven't used it for. The next silicone that I've tried is Moldstar 30, and this is technically just a little bit more durable. It is, I think in terms of shore hardness, this is 30A. It's definitely tougher. It has that nice dark blue color. To be honest, it is quite strong. Like, I really like the quality of this silicone. The working time with this is about 50 minutes and it cures within 6 hours. So it's a little bit longer than the Moldstar 15 Slow. It is also a platinum rubber and it is easy to work with, low viscosity. I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something a little bit more durable in terms of strength. I would say since it's still within the Moldstar lineup, it is quite similar. There's very little differences in my opinion. It was very easy to work with. Besides the color and the shore hardness, I would say they're pretty comparable. Another one I've tried is Sorta Clear 18. I love this name, Sorta Clear. Sorta Clear 18 is one of the silicones that I said that takes 24 hours to cure, and it is ideal for food applications or jewelry. I see a lot of people that do jewelry and make those little square molds, they use that. So if you're looking to do something like that, I would definitely recommend this. Since it does have that clear look, you can see where you're injecting the wax and make sure that the mold is actually filled. This is a platinum cured silicone, and as the name states, it is 18 shore hardness. I also read that this one is good for the low melt metal alloys as well because it does have a high heat resistance of 450. With the Sorta Clear 18, you can also use silicone pigments, which I have in various different colors. You can get this kit online or at your local distributor, and it is nice if you do want to switch it up and make a specific color. I haven't found much use for this personally because I heard that if you want to retain the food safety certification, these don't qualify. So these will ruin the food safetiness of the silicone. So I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to add any pigments that may leach into the food that I am using the silicone molds with. So if I do have a project where it does not require a food related casting agent, then I will look into this, which I think I will, because I recently bought a flexible resin, which I will talk about, and it is that clear color and it's kind of boring. The clear also comes with a shore hardness of 12, 37, and 40. The next silicone I've used is Smooth Sil 940. It's probably the thickest silicone I have ever used, and what I've described earlier as like this marshmallow consistency. So when you get a silicone like that, it does require a vacuum degasser, like no questions asked. And this is definitely worth the investment if you are going to be making a lot of silicone molds, just because most of these silicones are part A and part B based. And once you add the two parts together and give it a good stir for a couple of minutes, you do create a ton of air bubbles. And this is very problematic if you have something you want to mold and the aesthetics are in high regard, because a lot of air bubbles will occur and that will impact the quality of your mold. So I actually have two chambers, one smaller one and one larger one, and it has been put to good use. I got it on Amazon. It is linked in my Amazon storefront, so you can check it out there. It has been working for me for the past year and I've had no issues whatsoever. I got the pump and the chamber on Amazon. It came in a kit, and then I bought the larger chamber because I've been doing a lot more rubbers and in higher quantities, and the small one wasn't working for me anymore. So in terms of the Smooth Sil 940, it is something you have to work with quite quickly. It does have a working time of 30 minutes and a cure time of 24 hours. So this is another one that is quite long. It has a shore hardness of 40A, and I used it for a cake mold, which I absolutely loved. I also baked some bread with the cake mold and I put it in the oven and I had no issues whatsoever. I'll attach some clips so you can see it. Before I had a vacuum chamber, I mainly just stuck with the Mold Star 15 because it is very low viscosity and I didn't require a vacuum chamber. But if you get lazy with it, you will have terrible air bubbles, especially with the Mold Star 30. I can attach a clip of something that I made. A way to mitigate that is taking things slow. After you put your part A and your part B, you mix it all up. You want to have your item on the table, and with your container, just do a high pour and make sure it's a thin stream going into whatever you're molding, and start from the corner. Keep it at the corner, let it fill the object. That will try to eliminate a lot of the air bubbles that might occur. If you get lazy with it, it might happen, so don't skip this step. It's worth your time. The next silicone I'm going to talk about is Mold Max 30. And this one is a part A and part B, but it does have a different ratio. So you'll get like a 1 gallon container here, but then you will have a small little part B. So you do have to measure it out. You don't want to make the wrong mixture because it will be a mess. This one is 100A and 10B, that's the ratio. The pot life is 45 minutes and the cure time is 24 hours. So this is another one that takes some time. This is a tin cured silicone rubber, and this is my go-to when I'm molding with resin products, especially 3D printed resin products. So I do love this one. It's really easy to use. It is thick viscosity, so again, you'll need your vacuum chamber. But besides that, it is definitely my go-to. So don't mind this mold. This is the only one I could find at the moment. But this is a soap mold that I made, and the insert was 3D printed. And this isn't actually the first time I think I used this silicone. So the edges were like really raggedy. It's before I had a flow of things and made my 3D printing housing the way I do. But yeah. It looks like this, and it's quite flexible. It is 30A in terms of short hardness, And again, supposedly it does have a lifespan, but I haven't reached the end of any of the lifespans with this silicone. They are very durable and strong. The next one I have here is EcoFlex 0030. It has a shore hardness of 30 as stated in the name, and I'll tell you the story of how I started using this. I actually got it I think last week, and I went into the store and I actually bought this mold. It's a rose, and I wanted something similar to this consistency. It's very squishy, it's very lightweight, and when you're demolding something like this rose, I'll show it to you. It is very prone to breakage due to these really small details. So I really wanted to try out something like this to see if it would be comparable. Went to the store and asked the representative. They suggested me this silicone, and I tried it with a shell mold, and it's actually super similar. This one's a lot thinner than the one that I made. I used a lot more silicone, but it is very squishy, it's very lightweight, and it's easy to clean and use. So I'm very happy with that. In terms of viscosity, it is super thin. It's almost like the consistency of water or juice, like a thicker juice. It's super lightweight, super easy. I don't even think you need a vacuum. I do vacuum it anyway just from habit, but I don't believe that you need one. The only downfall with this specific silicone is that it's not really super durable like your Mold Star, like your Smooth Cells. It's a little bit more fragile, I would say, just because it's super soft and super flexible. And if you're making something that doesn't have a lot of like grooves or overhangs or edges, you'll be fine. If you have thinner parts, that may be an issue, and there may be more breakages and more tears. I have a new pack of Sorta Clear 37. I'm excited to use it. I have not tried it yet, but I'm sure it will be similar to the Sorta Clear 18. In terms of casting agents, I have used a few, and I have definitely loved the liquid plastic line. One that I use quite frequently is the Smooth Cast 325. It's a pot life of 2.5 minutes, so you have to work so fast, and a cure time of 10 minutes. That's probably my favorite part, because once I have the silicone mold, I just want to see how a cast looks, and this is my favorite kind of prototype before the actual like candle or whatever that I'm making. Also, I think I made a soap dish with this, and as well as like a candle holder. So it works really well. I love how fast it cures. That's probably the best part. And another thing is it's pigmentable, so you can add your pigments. Yeah, it's really easy to use. I hope this video helped at least a little bit, and if you have any additional questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time with a new video. Bye!